Today is a day we will never forget. This is our house. The water gave way, the walls gave way, went through our house. We lost everything. It's bad though. It's all our stuff all over the road. It's everywhere. My house, walls are destroyed. It's bad. My hot water tank. My air conditioning unit's down that way. Get my dog safe, my kids are safe, my wife is good. That's what really matters. This is it. Just smashed. Boom, boom. My house, boom. It's done. It's destroyed. So, the next chapter of life, what is it? Who knows? But this is where we're at for right now.
One homeowner in Harriman believes his family is living proof as to how serious the damage from those floodwaters could be, showing us what the county's emergency services is calling now the most severely damaged home in the county.
New here at 11, 6 on your side reporter Madison Keevy sees how this family is recovering after waters broke through their walls on Saturday.
I was sitting right here. All of a sudden, I heard a really loud noise.
February 23rd last year was a Saturday. Our son had just celebrated his birthday earlier in the month, so our children were 4, 5, and 6. And that day we were just kind of taking it easy. We had just gone to a goat show the day before, picked up some big, huge, pregnant boar goats. We decided to go ahead and jump in and get involved in the boar goat industry, and we had talked about going to the boar goat show the following day on that Saturday. Peter was actually planning on leaving around 11 o'clock or so to go back. But it was pouring rain, really pouring rain, and that kind of slowed him wanting to go out and get on the road. So it was around 10:45 a.m. Cadence and Peter were in the living room just kind of sitting and hanging out. The boys and I were up in the kitchen and just looking at some pictures and some scrapbooks of when they were babies. And then suddenly we just heard and felt this rumbling like nothing I'd ever experienced before. Peter thought we were having an earthquake. He told me later. I thought that our house had been struck by lightning, but neither of them really matched. And I looked down at Peter, he looked at me, and before we could even say a word to each other, the wall above Peter's head broke open and water with such force started pouring into the living room. I watched as Peter was lifted up by this tidal wave and thrown through the room. And the thought in my mind at that moment was, I'm watching him die. I thought he was going to be killed. There was such force in the water, and it was throwing him, this big strong man, around like he was nothing. But before I knew it, he had found his feet and he stood up and looked at me and he said, "You get the boys and I'll find Cadence." And as soon as I saw him stand and give me direction, I just snapped back into action. So I didn't know it at the time. I hadn't known that Cadence was in there with him. I didn't realize it. So I had already the two boys next to me. The room was still filling with water where Peter was. Water was coming down from the balcony. Water was coming in through that room's wall, and it was filling it up. So as Peter looked out, knowing that Cadence had just seconds before been sitting right next to him, now was looking out over a room filled with water, and he didn't know where she was. We can only explain it as God guiding him to where she was. He found her within a matter of seconds just by sticking his hands in the water and feeling around for her, and found that she was partially under our spiral staircase. He pulled her out, put her somewhere safe, and then he slammed his body against the door to open the doors and let the water rush out. So at that point, we had our 3 children. We got them out safely, and it is something that replayed in our minds over and over again about how easily that could have gone so differently. Earlier that day, Cadence had given this picture to Peter. She had worked on it for a while and she was pretty proud of it. She put little gems on it, and it was sitting on the kitchen table. And it's just something that's become kind of priceless to us, because he truly was her hero that day, and God allowed him to save his little girl. And even though it's got the mud stains on it now, it's just a reminder of how God allowed Peter to save her and how God spared her life that day. We still don't understand how the cinder blocks that broke out of the wall missed them. It went right over their heads. We still don't understand how Cadence moved through the room, past our brick and glass fireplace set in the middle of the room, past furniture, and still only came out with a bloody nose and a small injury on her back. I still don't know, except that God orchestrated it and his hand was in the whole situation. It's said a lot when someone goes through something traumatic or there's a disaster that they always saw it happen on the news or to other people, but never really thought about it happening to them. We were going about our daily life, and then our house is destroyed. We found our whole life was different. Suddenly there was a GoFundMe page in our name, and suddenly we were being interviewed several times by news stations. It was just very surreal. After the mudslide happened, there was fish in our living room and a frog, because the earth and the land that fell down pushed all the water out of this huge pond. So all that water came through our house, and we had fish and frogs in our living room, and this really thick layer of pond silt throughout the whole bottom story of the house. So afterwards, when we went back in there and we started to see what we could salvage, it was another surreal moment. Looking around at what was just a bustling household, now everything was just still and dark, water dripping from the ceiling, mud everywhere. We had to wear our boots in the house to walk through the house and put boards down so that we didn't sink too far into the mud. And just the kids' toys and things that we'd been working on just kind of scattered around. That was very difficult, but also not as difficult as I would have thought, because we still had each other, and all those things were just things. We still had our family. We never felt alone through it all. We had family and friends and even strangers who showed such kindness. Some neighbors that would just come and stand with us and just to show their support, ask if there's anything they can do, helped us go through things. We had family. My parents flew in to help, and we were just overwhelmed with the love and support. And it got to a point where it was hard to thank people properly. We felt there was nothing we could do to really show people the gratitude that we had for everything they had done to help us. It was overwhelming in a beautifully wonderful way. That was just such a blessing to be on the receiving end of all of that. Since we were on the news, there was a couple that we were sitting and eating in Cracker Barrel, and a couple sitting next to us recognized us from the news, and the woman came and whispered something in Cadence's ear and gave her some money, and then she left. And then I went out to thank her, and she gave me just the most genuine hug and just whispered, words of encouragement in my ear. And that was just a complete stranger that God had decided to set at a table next to us to give us that encouragement. those sort of things really helped us be so joyous and thankful through the whole process. It was just blessing after blessing. In complete contrast to the warmth and love that we felt from family and friends and even strangers that supported us and helped us. The complete opposite of that was the coldness and just lack of care that we received from insurance companies and all the financial institutions in our life. That was the challenging part. Out of all of this, that was the challenging part, because our insurance company told us, no, we don't cover landslides. And our neighbor's insurance company, where all the earth and the water came from, they said, no, it was an act of God. So we were stuck just accepting that our house that Peter had been working very hard, one income, working very hard to provide for and to grow and develop over the years, was just going to be sent to foreclosure. So that was difficult. It was a difficult decision to make, but we felt like we really had no other options. And suddenly we found ourselves involved in a lawsuit, which is hiring an attorney and dealing with all of the interesting things that come along with lawsuits. But where those sort of man-made institutions have lacked and failed in some ways, God has more than provided through the people He has put in our lives. To where we are a year later in our own house, we have over 20 goats and a whole room full of baby chicks that we've hatched. We have really been brought full circle in 1 year. And yesterday was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. It was 60 degrees. It was completely different than February 23rd last year, which was a horribly ugly, just stormy day. Yesterday was beautiful. And as I walked around just looking at the kids playing and the animals that God has blessed us with and the house that God has blessed us with, it just blows my mind. We never thought that we would be here this soon. We thought maybe 2 years we can get a farm again. Maybe in 2 years we can restart what we were working on. But 1 year later, I have my same goats back and I am getting goat milk, and we have our chickens that we're going to be raising and our goats, and it just is amazing how richly God has blessed us and restored this life that we've pursued to us. And it's just very humbling to think about what God has done through the people in our lives, because we would not be here without all of those people who have helped us. There have been so many blessings and different growth and triumphs in our life that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the mudslide. And it's amazing that this is how God works. He gives you those trials, and they're always for a reason. They strengthen you. They help you to be more thankful for what you have. They teach you humility. They strengthen your character and your perseverance and strengthen your faith and trust in Him. Now, the journey isn't quite over yet. We still are waiting to see what happens from this lawsuit with our neighbor's insurance company, and we'll see how that goes. But we don't worry. We're not afraid of what might happen from that. There's still loose ends, but we know that God has this totally in control. He has already proven that to us over and over and over again. And ultimately, He's provided everything we need already in His Son, Jesus. So there's nothing more we can ask for. My prayer is that this video just encourages you to put your trust in the Lord, and just shows you an example of how He takes care of His people. There's a Bible verse that I just wrote on this big, it's actually our own old greenhouse door from our old house that I've made into, a Pinterest project. But on there is a chalkboard, and on there I wrote this Bible verse. I wrote, "An evil person suffers much pain, but the Lord's faithfulness overwhelms the one who trusts in him. And that just sums up our feelings and our experience. We've trusted in him through this whole process, and he has overwhelmed us with his faithfulness. I just want to thank everybody who's prayed for us and stood by us and given to help us, because as I said before, we are here because of you, because God has provided through you, and that's meant so much to us and our children as well. So now we just celebrated my son's 5th birthday. My children are 5, 6, and 7. They're doing so well. I tuck them in bed at night in their own rooms. They have a property to run around and play on, and animals to help grow and take care of. It's only been a year. The year has gone by slow at times, but mostly it's gone by very quickly. And it's been a year full of blessing and growth and strengthening of relationships, and most of all, just gratitude. Very humbling, deep felt gratitude towards others, and especially towards God. It is now February 24th, 2020, a year and a day from the fateful mudslide day. Who knows what our future holds? God knows, and that's good enough for us. In the meantime, we will do our best every day to serve him, to raise our children to know him, and keep working hard here at Honey Acres Homestead to grow food for our family, and just trust him every step of the way and every day of our lives.